Two things. Comedians don't appreciate their jokes being stolen, and Steve Harvey has rubbed several comedians the wrong way. Well, it looks like Harvey has found himself in some trouble again.
Steve stole my material on his show, so I had a beef on that.
On what show?
When he was on his the he had, and he did all my Halloween material one Halloween. This is true stuff that really happened to me. And so my thing is, you don't have to do that, homeboy.
Right.
So you made enough money.
Wow.
You made enough money. You did enough. What? Why are you on my material?
Anyone with experience in show business is aware that the field is unstable and new challenges arise frequently. All areas of the industry contain these complexities, but humor seems to be the most prevalent. It might take the shape of a celebrity openly appropriating another's art in this scenario, or it might take the form of a celebrity appropriating the work of another. As Mark Curry appears to be criticizing Steve Harvey on a public stage, this is precisely what he claims has happened to him. The comedian, who rose to fame in the business during his formative years, has made several accusations against Steve Harvey, the majority of which portray Harvey as being the antithesis of what his brand stands for. Curry is revealing information about the famous daytime presenter, and it appears that Harvey's days as a comedian may not have been as simple as he made it seem. Curry thinks that some of the factors that led people to become fans of Steve Harvey might not have actually originated with the comic. Now, you may anticipate that allegations like these might surface occasionally in a field like entertainment where the lines could easily get crossed. But what makes this case particularly troubling is the fact that Steve Harvey has over the years become entangled in a web of other issues of a similar nature, and it appears that this history may have really led up to the information that Curry just provided. Could this be real? Is Steve Harvey truly not the model of a life coach as we have all believed? It's possible that you're about to learn information about his achievements that didn't appear in his book. Thus, I suppose I don't need to remind you to pay attention. Because people who make accusations against others frequently have little to lose in these kinds of situations. But Mark Curry is not at all like this description. This is just one of the many facets of this story that have kept it in the news for so long, because it's rare to see 90s stars come out and accuse someone of wrongdoing in the past. But that unquestionably isn't Curry, primarily recognized for his role as Mark Cooper in the popular ABC sitcom Hang In with Mr. Cooper. One of the stars that entered the profession when most people could only dream of being stars is Mark Curry, the stand-up comedian turned actor, with a history in stand-up, toured the world, selling out comedy clubs and theaters with his vivacious energy and natural stage presence. Curry now appears to be more interested in exposing the so-called accuses of the entertainment industry as nothing more than material-stealing con artists, and it appears Steve Harvey may be his first target. Curry, who is well recognized for how easily he can turn his life narrative into comedy, has recently alleged in 2 interviews that Steve Harvey reused his material for jokes on his shows. On his NBC talk program, Steve, Mark Curry once alleged that Steve Harvey had plagiarized several of his jokes. The comedian and Hang In with Mr. Cooper star said he had a dispute with Harvey during an appearance on Fox Soul's The Mike and Donnie Show. "I had a quarrel with Steve because he took my material for his show," the man claimed. "He performed all of my Halloween content one Halloween when he was on his Bulls talk show. I developed a grudge towards Steve for using my content on his program." "What program?" "Oh, the one he had when he was on his. And he completed all of my Halloween activities." In an astonishing new video that was released on Monday, Mark claimed to TMZ that Steve, the former presenter of NBC's Little Big Shots, had twice plagiarized his humorous content. "I believe that Steve Harvey used my content on both of his channels. Yeah. After speaking with him, I ran into him at Def Jam. I approached him and told him, 'Man, you're using my material.'" The comedian told the TMZ staff that although he had previously brought up the matter with Harvey, the joke stealing continued. Harvey allegedly told jokes on both The Steve Show and Kids Say the Darndest Things, according to the 58-year-old comedian. Curry told the TMZ staff, My thing with Steve Harvey, he exploited my material on both his platforms. You are removing money from my pocket. You succeeded. You are incredibly prosperous. Please stop using my content. Curry claims that because his Halloween joke was based on a true occurrence, he is aware that Steve Harvey stole it. He was talking about his own development. According to Mark, I noticed Steve and walked up to him to speak. I told him, "Baby, you're using my material and taking money out of my pocket. You've earned enough money to be extremely affluent. I don't need to give it back to you." Then, though, he applied it to his second program, The Kids Show. People began debating Curry's allegations regarding Steve, and some of the responses were pleasantly positive. One commenter said, "I feel his pain. My entire life has involved dealing with scandalous individuals like them. I witnessed Mark Curry in person, and he was worth your money. And he isn't the first one to criticize Steve Harvey. There is some truth to what people are saying about that man because nobody is hating on him." Well, suffice it to say that Mark was offended that the comic had used his work. "Please quit using my work, Steve Harvey." He glared aggressively into the camera. "Just call me and I'll tell you how to use my material. If you're going to take someone else's work, do it properly." Mark concluded by announcing that he would soon release a comedy special of his own. Given that Steve's entire reputation is based on being a good person who never does anything wrong, you can bet that he didn't take Mark's accusations too kindly. Mark Curry must mature. Since 2015, Steve Harvey has not performed live, but you said that he employed them on one of your programs. Find out what joke Mark Curry is making. Steve vehemently disputed any theft occurred and asserted that Curry was unable to even identify the joke he claimed was taken in the first place. "This is getting old to me right now," Steve said. Mark Curry needs to grow up. Since 2015, Steve Harvey hasn't performed live. Find out what joke Mark Curry is referring to. Steve said, "Are you kidding me?" When the interviewer mentioned that Mark had claimed that the host had used his joke on Little Big Shots. It appears that Steve was genuinely attacking Curry, suggesting that the claim may have hit a nerve with him. Later, Steve said, "Get a life, get a career. In 35 years, I have never stolen a joke." You remarked, "Are you kidding me?" He said that even after confronting you about it previously, he still utilized it. And he's still withholding the specific punchline. "Man, get a life, a job, and do something." The famed comedian continued by referring to himself in the third person and said, "Steve Harvey ain't been on stage since 2015. Ask Mark Curry what joke he's referring to," he continued. "Man up and tell him to mature." Curry was also told to get a life and a job by Steve, who not only dismissed him, but also said that Mark was just making things up and didn't know what he was talking about. Curry, however, demonstrated that he wasn't just making things up, because the comedian eventually dug out receipts to support his claims. He took to Instagram to provide proof in a now-deleted video, claiming Steve had really stolen a ton of jokes from him for his program, Steve, further inflaming his feud with Steve Harvey. Mark compared one of the episodes of his 1990s TV sitcom, Hangin' with Mr. Cooper, in the video he shared. During the show, Mark mentioned how he would dress as UPS for Halloween by donning a brown box. Surprisingly, Steve cracked the identical joke on his show in 2015. "Every Halloween, I had the same outfit on every year." Before introducing himself as a UPS employee, he told the gathering, "I only had a brown package." Given that Steve might have been the one lying, it was obvious. Fans began praising Curry for being correct all along, while also criticizing Steve in the process. "I agree with what Mark said about Steve." One commenter remarked, "Mark Curry has always had a unique style. He is a living legend. I've always respected Mark Curry." Because Curry isn't the only person Steve has allegedly been associated with in claims like this, some people seem to think Steve is the issue. Mark is not the only comic who has had issues with Steve Harvey, and the complaint began long before Steve got a TV program, they claimed. Although it appears that most people are just criticizing Steve Harvey, Mark Curry actually has much greater popularity than one might anticipate for someone who achieved prominence in the 1990s. On the Whitney Houston tour, you're accompanying Whitney Houston on tour. Observe my name. My name is respected by people, yes? Let me share with you what I've accomplished. Respect your name, people. Tim Barker was Mark's first TV series character, appearing in 6 episodes of the 1980 comedy Sounding Brass. His next role came in the critically acclaimed family sports comedy Hang-In with Mr. Cooper in 1992, where he was chosen to play Mark Cooper. The show, which aired its 101 episodes from 1992 to 1997, also received 2 of the 9 award nominations it received. Mark Curry's on-screen career reached a turning point in Hang-In with Mr. Cooper, having only made sporadic appearances since his acting debut in 1980. The first season of the show lived up to the promise of a primetime position. I accepted the opportunity and performed on Showtime at the Apollo. They offered me a sitcom, and Living Color was another option. Mark was able to carve out a position for himself in 90s popular culture because to the show's 14.6 million viewers in its debut season, which was tied with The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Following a successful first season, ABC moved the program to their TGIF block, which has some of the top sitcoms currently airing on television. But the thrill of season 1 was never truly recaptured by the program. What's it like to be on television, my man? People ask me as they approach me, and I tell them, it's live, I say. Do you understand the reason? You can do whatever you want on television after all. For instance, I could cause thunder and lightning while you watched. The series lacked the consistency to establish a firm foothold in comedy mythology due to a mix of replaced characters, new showrunners, and shifting time slots. Even though it continued to air, its ratings dropped from season to season until, after 13 episodes in the 5th season, it was permanently canceled. The inference was that Mark did not have an iconic show that would enable his name to live on through generations, in contrast to other luminaries of the Black sitcom era. Even though the show was available on platforms like HBO Max and Hulu, and was syndicated on broadcast networks like Paramount's Nickelodeon and BT, it was never a fan favorite. Comparably, the casts of Full House and Family Matters acquired new importance with a younger audience. Hey everyone, how are you? What song is my anthem? There's school, 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 all the time. Spending time with my man, he's so cool, so cool, so cool. Mark went on to star in 2 episodes of the 1998 comedy, The Jamie Foxx Show, and 6 episodes of the 2000 comedy, The Drew Carey Show, despite having already achieved fame with Hang-In with Mr. Cooper. Fast forward to 2005, when viewers saw him as Max Cooper in the well-known comedy Fat Actress, which was written and directed by Kirstie Alley and featured Rachel Harris, Bryan Callen, and him. It centers on a weight loss attempt of an actress. Mark only had 1 TV series appearance for the rest of the decade. The House of Pain family comedy episodes reunited, and It Don't Feel Good from 2008. Okay, people. I did coliseums before I did clubs. Please keep that in mind. Whitney Houston would simply go boom, and the entire coliseum would be filled. In 2003, Curry also served as host of the programs Animal Tales and Coming to the Stage on BT. He made an appearance on Celebrity Mole Yucatan in 2004. To Dennis Rodman, he came in second. On the Tracy Morgan-hosted La Fapalooza special on November 30th, 2008, Mark gave a stand-up comedy performance. Curry presented Jamie Foxx's Foxhole Live, which could be heard on satellite radio every Monday in the Conga Room in Los Angeles from 2009 to 2011. Curry joined a group of other popular comedians on the Royal Comedy Tour in 2012. Curry's stand-up comedy act, which had the audience in fits of laughter, was frequently regarded by viewers as the show's high point. On May 17, 2007, he was on the verge of losing his, at the time, modest success. I don't even cope with the fact that it was a poor circumstance because it caused me to fall into a deep depression. While he was doing laundry, an aerosol that was under a water heater collapsed and burst, burning his arms back and side. He underwent a medically induced coma for 3 days as part of his treatment, and he then spent several months rehabilitating at home. The flames got on me, and that's what took me. It must have been an aerosol can. A water heater explosion occurred. Perhaps the global fame's disappointment overshadowed the accident's freakishness, the fact that 20% of his body was burned, or any combination of the three. However, the actor, who was born in Oakland, had a deeper scar because he had considered suicide. Thankfully, he decided against it with the assistance of colleagues like Richard Pryor and Sinbad. Following his rehabilitation, Mark Curry appeared again on screen, primarily in cameo roles. In 2012, he co-starred as a comedic writer in all 3 seasons of See Dad Run, playing his first significant role following the accident. Curry certainly endured hardship, but it now appears that more people may have been watching him grow over the years without Curry even being aware of it, which probably explains how Steve was able to steal his jokes so easily. It actually helped because while I was inside, I kept telling myself that when I came out, I would tell the truth. I'm going to attack them in an entirely other manner. This comedy should no longer be held back. Speaking of Steve, it turns out that Curry's accusation that he had plagiarized his joke is merely one of many contentious circumstances the famous host has found himself in over the years. Everyone is aware that Steve Harvey is among the most popular TV hosts in recent memory. But how the celebrity got to where he is something that most people aren't aware of. The West Virginia native started performing stand-up comedy in the early 1990s. The West Virginia native started out in stand-up comedy in the early 1990s, and from 1999 to 2000, he hosted Showtime at the Apollo,